Service Teardown HP EliteOne 1000 G2 AiO PC. How to replace the back cover.
Removal. With the computer facing away from you, grasp both sides of the back cover and use your thumbs to press the tabs on the rear of the back cover. Lift the rear edge of the back cover and, at an angle, slide the tabs on the front edge of the back cover out from underneath the front cover. Reverse this procedure to install the back cover. Reverse this procedure to install the back cover.
How to replace the display head unit.
Before you begin, remove the back cover. Removal. Caution: the display head unit is very top-heavy when detached from the base. To prevent damage, ensure that it is properly supported during the removal procedure. There are two display panel cables. Pinch the tabs on the edges of the display panel and disconnect them from their connectors on the system board. Remove the display panel cables from the routing channel on the system board. While supporting the display head unit, loosen the two captive T15 Torx screws that secure it to the base. Slide the display head unit toward the rear of the base and lift it straight up and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the display head unit.
How to replace the right fan.
Before you begin, remove the back cover. Removal. Lift the right fan off of the alignment pins and set it aside. Disconnect the right fan cable from its connector on the system board. Remove the right fan. Reverse this procedure to install the right fan.
How to replace the front cover.
Before you begin, remove the back cover and right fan. Removal. Disconnect the button board cable from its connector on the system board. With both hands, grasp the corners of the front cover and use your thumbs to press the green tabs on the rear of the front cover. Lift the front cover straight up from the base and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the front cover.
How to replace the power button board.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, and front cover. Removal. Using minimal force, lift the locking bar up on the power button board ZIF connector and disconnect the power button board ribbon cable from the power button board. Remove the 5.5mm T15 Torx head screw that secures the power button board to the front cover. Lift the power button board off of the alignment pins on the front cover and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the power button board.
How to replace the memory modules.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, and front cover. Removal. Push both arms outward simultaneously to release the memory module to the spring tension position. Grasp the memory module by the edges and pull gently to remove it. Reverse this procedure to install the memory module. Important: when installing the memory module, be sure to align the notch in the memory module with the key in the memory module slot in the system board.
How to replace the 2.5-inch storage drive.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, and front cover. Removal. Grasp the green tab and disconnect the SATA cable from the connector on the storage drive. Press the metal release tab and slide the storage drive toward the rear of the base. Lift the storage drive straight up and remove it from the base. Reverse this procedure to install the storage drive.
How to replace the RTC battery.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, and front cover. Removal. Press the copper tab on the RTC battery socket to partially release the RTC battery. Carefully lift the RTC battery out of the RTC battery socket and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the RTC battery.
How to replace the left fan.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, and front cover. Removal. Lift the left fan off of the alignment pins and set it aside. Disconnect the left fan cable from its connector on the system board. Remove the left fan. Reverse this procedure to install the left fan.
How to replace the M.2 solid-state drive.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, front cover, and left fan. Removal. Remove the 3.5mm P1 Phillips head screw that secures the solid-state drive to the base. Grasp the solid-state drive by the edges and pull gently to remove it from its slot. Reverse this procedure to install the solid-state drive. Important: when installing the solid-state drive, be sure to align the notch in the solid-state drive with the key in the solid-state drive slot on the system board.
How to replace the wireless LAN module.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, and front cover. Removal. Caution: use care when disconnecting the wireless LAN antenna cables from the wireless LAN module. A damaged cable or connector can degrade notebook performance. Carefully disconnect the wireless LAN antenna cables from the wireless LAN module by grasping the connectors with a small pair of needle nose pliers or tweezers. Remove the 3.5mm P1 Phillips head screw that secures the wireless LAN module to the system board. Grasp the wireless LAN module by the edges and pull gently to remove it. Reverse this procedure to install the wireless LAN module. Important: when installing the wireless LAN module, be sure to align the notch in the wireless LAN module with the key in the wireless LAN module slot in the system board.
How to replace the speakers.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, front cover, and wireless LAN module. Removal. Disconnect the speaker cable from its connector on the system board. Remove the four 4.5mm T15 Torx head screws that secure the speakers to the base. Lift the speakers off of the alignment pins on the base and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the speakers.
How to replace the heatsink.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, and front cover. Removal. Loosen the two captive T15 Torx head screws that secure the heatsink to the base. Note: the heatsink has numbers engraved into the metal adjacent to the following four screws. Loosen the four captive T15 Torx head screws that secure the heatsink over the processor in numerical order. Caution: the heat pipes on the heatsink are easily bent. Handle the heatsink with care. Lift the heatsink off of the standoffs on the system board and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the heatsink. Important: the thermal grease must be removed from the processor and heatsink and new thermal grease applied before replacing the heatsink.
How to replace the CPU.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, front cover, and heatsink. Removal. Rotate the locking lever to its fully open position. Rotate the processor retainer to its fully open position. Important: make note of the location of the pin 1 golden triangles on the processor and processor socket for later replacement. Lift the processor straight up from the processor socket on the system board and remove. Caution: do not handle the processor socket pins. These pins are very fragile, and handling them could cause irreparable damage. Reverse this procedure to install the processor.
How to replace the display arm base.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, display head unit, right fan, front cover, and left fan. Removal. Remove the two 9mm T15 Torx head screws that secure the display arm base to the system board. Lift the display arm base off of the alignment pins on the base and remove. Lift the display arm base bracket off of the alignment pins on the base and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the display stand base and bracket.
How to replace the system board.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, display head unit, front cover, memory modules, left fan, M.2 solid-state drive, wireless LAN module, speakers, heatsink, and display arm base. Removal. Disconnect the SATA cable from its connector on the system board. Remove the 3 5.5mm and 1 10mm T15 Torx head screws that secure the I/O bracket to the base. Lift the I/O bracket off of the system board and remove. Remove the 5 5.5mm T15 Torx head screws that secure the system board to the base. Carefully lift the front edge of the system board off of the alignment pins and slide the external connectors out of the cutouts in the base. Remove the system board. Note: if you're installing a new system board, remove the following from the old system board and install onto the new system board: real-time clock RTC battery, processor, thermal pads if undamaged. Reverse this procedure to install the system board. Important: after system board replacement, be sure to complete post-installation tasks as required that may include verifying functionality of the computer, updating the BIOS, updating DMI, and other settings.
How to replace the display arm cover.
Before you begin, remove the back cover and display head unit. Removal. Loosen the captive P1 Phillips head screw that secures the display arm cover to the display arm. Slide the display arm cover up to disengage it from the tabs on the display arm. Remove the display arm cover. Reverse this procedure to install the display arm cover.
How to replace the display arm.
Before you begin, remove the back cover, right fan, front cover, and stand cover. Removal. Important: make careful note of the routing of the display panel cable for later replacement. Remove the display panel cable from the routing channel in the display arm. Loosen the two captive T15 Torx head screws that secure the display arm to the display panel assembly. Slide the display arm out of the opening in the display cover and turn it over. Slide the cable cover out of the display arm. Guide the display panel cable through the opening in the display arm. Remove the display arm. Reverse this procedure to install the display arm.
How to replace the webcam.
Removal. Insert a paper clip into the release holes on each side of the webcam to disengage the internal latches. Slide the webcam out of the cradle in the display panel assembly and remove. Reverse this procedure to install the webcam.